Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to another week of Richard Fowler's Austin Real Estate Insider. And on today's show, Richard and I are going to go over farm and ranch. It's one of his areas of expertise, along with Donna, his partner. We're going to talk about buying farm and ranch land here in the Texas Hill Country, what it is, how you do it, what you need to understand, because it's not just buying a property, it's buying the land and all the things that come with it, and understanding all the things that come with it and the rules behind it that you need to know. So stay tuned. We'll be right back on in just 1 second.
Across a line of burning coal, and maybe my absence takes a toll. It's true. No, I'm always walking in the direction of you.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. Richard, how are you, my friend?
Doing good, Jeff. How are you today?
I am well. I'm looking forward to talking about farm and ranch today. So
It's exciting. It's kind of nice after as much residential as we do to get out in the country every so often. So I love that.
yeah, as long as it's not too far out, it's a nice,
Oh,
pleasant walk around a nice piece of property in most cases.
that or riding a gator or whatever,
Yeah.
driving a truck, whatever it
Yeah.
takes. I'm actually going out to one of our properties tomorrow and installing a new banner.
Okay.
The glorious side of real estate, right?
The glorious side of real estate, stomping through fields and everything else.
Making sure I got my boots on and my jeans on and I got the equipment I need and I'm going early so it won't be a million degrees outside.
Oh,
So,
no kidding.
yeah.
Why don't we kick this off a little bit? I think one of the big things, especially here in Central Texas, that I would say with buying farm and ranch, it's understanding water rights when you're buying land. So what do people need to understand about this? Because this is something you don't really even think about with a residential property.
I think every week I back you up a little bit, but the key thing to start with is goals and objectives, all right, with the client. What are they trying to do when they're buying a property? And budget too. But as you kind of get into those discussions early on about, okay, are we talking what's a ranch? What's a farm and ranch to you, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's some people think
Are you going to be a farmer? Are you going to be a rancher? Or do you just want to have a couple cattle?
yeah, and are we talking 10, 20 acres? Are we talking five? Are we talking several hundred? What are we talking about? And because there's just a ton of stuff to consider there. And this is, I guess, a pun intended, a whole different animal than a residential purchase, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of research that goes into it, and there's water rights is a big portion of that. What are you? I have a lot of clients that come to me, and in fact, we have a property on the market right now where the San Gabriel River runs right through the middle of it.
Oh, wow.
A lot of clients, they want the scenic, and they're not really looking for the rancher side of it. They're more looking at the hobby farm type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So they like the scenic where the water runs through it, the trees, the grasses. Some people want to do where they build a main house on it and they have a shop, or they want to build the main house on it and have places for their kids to buy. And there's all different kinds of things to consider in all of that. And of course, water is a key component of that. And frankly, it affects value. Okay.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about these types of properties, access to water, is that a well? Is it tanks? Is it a river? Is there a lake close by? All of those things play into it, even to the point of, frankly, quarries. There's some properties in Florence that they have quarries around them and they're contaminating the water table. So you have to be concerned about, was that quarry 5 miles away going to contaminate the water to feed my cattle or my home, my family, whatever? So there's a lot that really goes into farm and ranch properties, drilling down on all those types of things, including trees, soil, intended purpose. Are you grazing cattle? Are you trying to raise horses? All of that plays into it as far as the grasses that are there, the dirt mix, the soil itself. We know it's kind of interesting because in Central Texas, I-35 kind of delineates between the west side, which is pretty much rock, right? And then you and I live on the west side of I-35.
Yeah.
You try to plant a plant, it could take you days.
Or you get your fence redone like I did, and the guys were out there with jackhammers for 3 days just digging the posts in.
There was a neighbor down the street put in a swimming pool, and they were jackhammering for 90 days. And I finally told him, I said, all the neighbors get access to the pool because we've been putting up with the jackhammering all this time.
Yeah.
Anyway, but on the east side, it's a lot more conducive to animals. All right. The
Okay.
soil is better soil for horses, for cattle,
Yeah.
for whatever. I have a
Well,
buddy.
it's actual soil instead of rock
Yeah.
that maybe
Yeah.
there's some soil
Yeah.
on top
Yeah.
of. Yeah.
But I have a buddy that wanted to raise goats. So, we're
Okay.
like, let's look at the east side. And so we actually bought him 20 plus acres for goats. So anyway, a little bit of everything. It just depends. And I'm not saying that's hard and fast. Depends on how far you get out. We get out an hour from town and stuff like that. You can find areas, not even that far. You can find areas to raise cattle and other things. It really
Mm,
depends. But to your question about water, that's something that has to be researched. And to sell the properties these days, there's actually disclosures on that too that have to be considered and have to be reviewed.
yeah. Now, are you finding a lot of these when somebody purchases a farm or a ranch? Is that typically been a ranch before, or is it just maybe some land that somebody has carved off from a bigger ranch or something like that, and you're starting from ground zero?
It's a little bit of both. We see a lot. Again, it gets back into what are you buying, but I would say in most cases, you're having people that they've carved it out about with the history. Everybody started big and then they started slicing and dicing with the family to give people
Hmm.
money and sell off and things like that. So we see a lot of that. I got one right now that 72 acres and the other family members own around the property. So that's another 100 acres. So really, if somebody wanted to buy close to 200 acres, we could do that. Or if they want to buy part of it, we can do that too. It just depends on what they need. But in other cases, we have people that are looking for several hundred acres. And it just really depends on how, first of all, your background knowledge base and how serious you are about what you're
Yeah.
doing. And it gets into things like conversations. There's a lot of hobby farmers out there, right? And it gets into the conversations about, okay, you've worked hard all your life to get to the point where you can have land, okay, and have, the
Why do
money.
you want to create a whole new job for yourself?
But that's part of it. But the other side of it too is that you're getting up in age, so you need to have access to health care and all the other
Yep.
stuff. We have to consider that I'm just talking through those things with the idea of having a farm and ranch and stuff like that is pretty sexy a lot of times. But when you start
Mm,
getting into the details, it kind of morphs as to what you're looking for. Maybe we need less acreage and a little less farther out, or
yeah.
those types of things. And it also just and I've got one client right now that he wants the country feel. I don't want to hear the traffic noise and everything like that, but he wants proximity to a highway so he can get into town or the hospitals or whatever
Sure.
should it need to in a kind of an expedient manner. So we go through all of that. It gets into grassing, fences, what infrastructure they have, all kinds of stuff. There's just
Mm,
a lot to it. And that's one thing that as realtors, we all have areas of expertise that we're trained and have experience on.
mm,
And a lot of brokerages that are out there, the realtors have to prove that they've have expertise in those certain areas or they need to
mm.
refer it to somebody that does. And
Yeah.
so that's been one of the things that Donna and I have benefited from is that we have experience in those
You've been
areas.
doing it most of your career, and she's been doing
Yes.
it since the beginning of time.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
Donna was my partner, was the top one of the top farm and ranch realtors in Glen Rose, Texas for years, and has been doing farm and ranch for many years. And so
yeah.
she trained me, and in most cases, most time when you're working with us on farm and ranch, you're getting two agents for the price of one because
Yeah.
we're working it together. And it requires that. When we're doing showings and things like that, just to manage it all and get it all together and present it well and do what we should do to sell it or buy it, it takes both of us.
So this isn't as easy as just running a competitive analysis and of a competitive market analysis of a few houses around where you're selling. I'm assuming farm and ranch is a little bit more work evaluating it because there's not necessarily a comparable that's out there. How do you evaluate that piece of land from access, utilities, soil, flood, usable acreage, and stuff like that?
The good thing about your typical residential properties is you typically have similar comps in the area that you can
Okay.
pull from pretty easily. So it helps you dial in. Don't get me wrong, there are unique properties and stuff out there too, but in most cases, in typical neighborhoods, there's comps there that you can pull from, a lot of times not even having to go out of that neighborhood. When you get in, the more unique you get, then it becomes, there's more subjectivity in it and there's more research required. Okay. So when we're looking at farm and ranches or land acquisition, we're trying to find similar tracts with similar amenities, all right, in different areas of town. And that can play when we've got properties that are out, close to the Samsung plant or whatever, that's a
Mm.
unique area. So you can't pull something from 15 miles away, 20 miles away and equate that. You'd have
Yeah.
to, it's really hard, right? There is subjectivity in it, but what we do is extensive analysis of the properties to try to
Mm.
remove as much subjectivity as possible. And there's ways to market it too, based on sometimes we have to go back further in history and pull things forward, all right, and make adjustments as they come forward, do trend analysis and things like that. But it goes into what you're talking about. It's just a lot more in depth, and that's why farmer, it's not something, it's not going to sell in 30 days typically. It's something
Yeah.
that takes a while to do. And you have your option period in residential real estate. In farm and ranch and commercial land development, you typically have feasibility periods, which are usually quite a bit longer,
Yeah.
60, 90 days beyond. We've had feasibility periods that have gone in excess of a year just because they kept coming up and different discoveries and stuff like that. So it just really depends on what they're trying to do. But yeah, it goes back to the data. You try to research
Mm.
as much as possible and pull that information out and then price accordingly.
Absolutely. So let's talk about financing because most people aren't just going to come out and write a fat check for the land. Some people can, maybe they move
Mhm.
from California or something, but
Sure.
a lot of cases they're going to have to finance the land. What is different about financing land versus financing just a house
Well, I
that
mean,
sits on some land?
yeah, typically you go to more banks and things like that,
Okay.
farm and credit type scenarios, things like that,
Mm.
where they have set up. We have several bank partners that specialize in, they may do a smorgasbord of things, but they do specialize on farm and ranch too, that we can
Okay.
point you to in regards to that. And it really starts there too. If you're going to be financing it, just like with a residential situation, you want to get pre-approved for a target amount of money. And just to make sure that we're all dialed in on the affordability level, right? Because I don't want to be showing you properties that are, let's just say, $10 million or whatever when your budget is eight or vice versa. So, a lot of times we'll look at running lines of credit on that just to see where we're at so we can dial in, is this affordable or not? And some clients come when they're already prepared for that, and other clients, most we help find those types of things and just run an analysis to make sure that they're prepared for that for their benefit as well as ours.
Yeah. So can you explain one of the things that people can do once they buy a piece of property like this is they might get an ag exemption. So can you explain what that is and why does that really matter to you as a landowner?
Think it's very important. Ag exemptions help with taxes. They reduce your taxes. Okay.
Okay.
So if you're doing, and each county has criteria of what meets an ag exemption. And in some cases, you can raise bees and
Hmm.
it's an ag exemption on a property. That's one of the ones that are better because it's low impact and you can do a little small area of that and have an exemption for it instead of running a herd of cattle or whatever. You look at that, and sometimes it's raising grass, grass production, hay production, whatever. And then the higher level of ag exemption is a wildlife exemption, which you can get, which basically could be birds, it could be various types of wildlife that you're managing. And so what's required is you have to document hay production, cattle, bees, birds, whatever it is, and you have to report that back into the county on an annualized
Hmm.
basis so that you can revalidate your tax benefit and things like that. It can be huge. Keeping those things can really save you a lot of money. The other side of that too is if you're a builder or you're going to develop that land, then when you go in and purchase that property, if you don't maintain the ag exemption, then you can actually be docked, not for the change, it can go back multiple years in arrears and you can be charged all those taxes up to date. So that has to factor in per the county what it is. And so we always warn our clients that it's like, you are going to maintain the ag exemption, right? Or you are going to take, if you don't do the wildlife and you want to move to the ag, it just depends on what your plan is. But you can actually move from a wildlife to an ag to move back, but you can. And we just make sure that they know that if they don't ever maintain that, then the tax man may be coming and looking for some money.
Okay. You have, I'm assuming, people that know what they're doing, but I'm assuming a lot more people, it sounds like a good idea and they really want this. So what mistakes do you find first-time land buyers make when they're coming in and buying land for the first time?
I approach it not as a mistake, but as a misunderstanding, or just they haven't been educated yet. All right.
Perfect.
And so I think it's more, it goes to the right realtor with the right expertise and stuff like that, because we qualify that through the process. Because the
Okay.
last thing I want to do is have somebody take over something that cost them a bunch more money later on, or it's not what they wanted, or this is just too much. And it's like houses in some degree. We have people cycle through. We'll have people buy 20, 40, 50 acres and just love it for 10 years or whatever, and just get it all out of their system, taking care of the animals and all that stuff. And they're like, okay, I'm done with that. I'm ready to move back into town and get a little easier, because it's a lot of work. And
Yeah.
it just really depends what they're doing. But that's one of the things that we try to do, is make sure that they're aware of what they're getting into and stuff like that. To your point about ag exemptions and stuff like that, we're not lawyers.
Yeah.
So we tell them up front, these are things that you need to be aware of, but here's a couple of ag lawyers to call to get expertise and stuff like that. We've done that many times, where we're just like, you need to let them talk to you about maintaining your ag and requirements and stuff like that. We talk about it in generality. So we do that, but it's all about, we do this to help people. It's active, right?
Sure.
So it's one of those things about what we do to focus on people. And we get very excited about people that want to buy farm and ranches, because we get excited about that. We want to make sure it's a smart buy for them or a smart sell for them.
I love it. All right. Last thing I want to cover is tell us a story, a ranch story, good or horror, that taught you something about that business.
We've had, real estate is personal, and no matter what it is. And one of the things you don't think about when you're talking about farm and ranches, a lot of times these ranches have been handed down through the family for
Oh,
years,
yeah.
right? And they're split up with the family and stuff like that. So instead of having one client, we might have 19 clients,
Yeah.
something like that, right? So trying to get all of them on the same page to move forward. And we've got one right now out in Copeland that has probably at least 9 or 10 people involved in
Oof.
the decision making. And
Yes.
so we work hard to make sure everything is shared with all of those parties, and they're all making the decision, and we're all moving in the right way. So that can be one of the things that can be challenging too, because not all families play well together. So that can be a
Nope.
situation where we can have
Yeah.
problems there too.
And some people, you think that this is going to be their saving grace and all their financial problems are going to be taken care of by the sale of this land. And you're dividing it up 9 ways. Okay, here's reality.
Yeah, and we get into highest and best use of the property.
Yep.
If you're selling it, we can sell it at a farm and ranch price, or we can sell it as a commercial development price if we have a
Sure.
business or somebody own it. Or what do you have an emotional? We were selling a farm and ranch property last year that had been in a family multi generations, beautiful piece of property. We had people that wanted to buy it that were going to run a business on it. So it wasn't going to be a farm and ranch anymore. And I'm like, are you okay with that? It's been in
Yeah.
your family for a long time. So it gets into that personal stuff, and just making sure that everybody's on board, and the timing and all of that. So there's a lot of nuances to it.
You think about, like, in our area alone, you go around just our area and there's all these different 1890 ranch and this ranch and that ranch. These were actually people's homesteads.
Sure.
And now they're malls and shopping centers and everything else. And at least they kept the name so that people would remember it. But yeah, the family members driving by, it's like, oh yeah, that was our family land for,
Yeah, there's a standing ranch. There's a
150
lot of that.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll never forget my first house. I was a new construction, and I bought and built up in Frisco, Texas, North Dallas.
Yep.
And my grandfather, I was all excited to show him our home, our first home. We were just jazzed about it. And I'll never forget driving up in front of it and parking in front of the house and looking at the house, and I'm anticipating what he's going to say. Congratulations, beautiful home, whatever it is. And he goes, you guys sure tore up a lot of good farming land out here to put these houses. And
Thanks, Gramps.
my grandfather was a lifetime farmer. And so,
Yeah.
he was a teacher and other things too, but he did farming and hauled watermelons and the whole nine yards. So he knew the value of the land. And so that was his paradigm. And I'll never forget that. And so it plays into when we have these conversations with their clients, it's their emotions get involved. We've had deals that hinged on who's getting grandma's rocking chair. I think I've told you
Yeah.
that story before, but so it just depends.
Oh, trust me, I've had financial clients with fighting a couch. I remember having a conversation with a married couple getting divorced, and they were fighting over this couch. And I actually threatened to come over to the house with a chainsaw and cut it in half because I'm like, we're not arguing about this anymore. So
Yeah, people get hung up on. I
it's
understand.
emotion, and yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's your
I under,
family
yeah,
stuff.
I
Yeah.
understand connection to the land.
Yeah.
If I had something that had been in my family for generations, I would have
Sure.
a hard time, letting that go. But you also have to realize, you just have to weigh it out. Does it make sense to do that? Or with the money, some of these things can generate, and that's generational change potentially for
Sure.
several members of your family. You just have to weigh it out and make sure that everybody's on the same page.
Absolutely. Cool, man. I think this was great stuff. Great conversation. I don't think we've ever really had an in-depth conversation about farm and ranch. So hopefully this will be good for a lot of folks, and they know where to come because you're one of the few that's this good at it up in our area. I think the other day I searched for farm and ranch agents in Cedar Park and you came up. That
That's good
should
to
tell
know.
us something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good to
should
know.
tell us a lot. So definitely you're the first start to take a look at that. And also, folks, Richard had put together a farm and ranch guide. So I'll put the link to that down in the show notes area. So if you want to learn a little bit more about this and get more in depth, there's a 20-page guide or so on that so that you can enjoy that a little bit and hopefully learn a little extra. So thanks a lot. We appreciate you guys listening. We'll see you back here next time. And I think next week we're going to talk about VA loans and buying with your VA benefits. So if any of you are veterans out there, this will be a good one to learn a little bit about that if you've not bought with a VA loan or are considering it. So thanks a lot, and we'll see you guys here next week.